This is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. My name is Christopher Saunders, and I'm pleased to have on the head coach of the Holy Cross Crusaders, who are making quite a deep run in the state tournament for Class S. Matt Smolley, who's in his first season. Coach, first off, congratulations on the victory yesterday against East Granby, rather. But also, to the boys, they're playing a pretty good. They're peaking at the perfect time.
Thank you, Chris, and I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, for sure. We're playing good baseball right now. It's been a long season, and I think that right now our kids are playing their best baseball, which is a good thing. Getting into league tournament play and now CIAC tournament play, where every game is a tough game, every opponent is a quality opponent. So I'm proud of where our kids are right now.
Now, coach, I think a lot of people, and just in conversations I've had, and nobody ever thinks that the NVL is, down here. Everybody I've talked to has respect for the NVL.
Right.
But when you think of the media and kind of what they cover and how they cover, the NVL doesn't get a lot of recognition. I mean, this year, think about it. You guys, Woodland, for the amount of success that you had, it was hard to kind of grab the media attention. So for you in your first year, how did you kind of handle that with the players also while dealing during a pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, I think our biggest thing is, we just worry about what we can control at Holy Cross. Our kids go out there every game and, give their best effort, and, we try to win every day. And, our league I think our league is well respected, around the state. I mean, every year, we're putting 8 to 10 teams in the CIAC tournament. And usually, I mean, with this year, again, we're making deep runs into the tournament with, us, St. Paul, and Woodland. And, Woodland had to play 2 MVL opponents in Wolcott and Watertown, so I think our league is always well represented. I think with some of the smaller schools in our league, maybe it's why we don't get the exposure that some of the bigger schools get, but, that's all right. We're proud to represent our league. And, I think that we always represent our league well in the CIAC tournament.
Even the teams that didn't, have the illustrious amount of wins or even, were kind of like the top scale, like Seymour and Oxford and such, they were still very, very competitive. And I understand the runs were not deep for them. And I know Woodland played against Seymour, if I recall, in the first round game for them, but still,
Yes.
there's a lot of talent and there's a lot of, Wolcott as well. Wolcott's another team. I can't forget about them. There's so
Right.
much, every single game that you guys are in, it's always competitive. And it's great to see that in the NVL.
Yeah. I mean, we had some great games this season. Oxford, first game of the season, ended up being a great game. Seymour was our last regular season game, which was a big game for us that we needed to win to get it one of the top 3 seeds in the NVL tournament. And they were playing good baseball. And if you look at the 8 teams that made the NVL tournament, I mean, I said it from the beginning, it's anyone's tournament. And, Wolcott was playing really good. Watertown was playing really good. Naugatuck was playing really good. And then you still had, obviously, Woodland and St. Paul, who are, in my opinion, the 2 better teams in our league. And, obviously, they got bumped off. But, I mean, with that 8-team tournament, anybody could have won it.
You had in the NVL tournament, you had both the 1 and the 2 seed get upset in Woodland and St. Paul. And
Right.
it's funny because I see what what certain media people do as far as they kind of pick, almost like during the CIC state tournament where they pick teams and such. I
Right.
kind of, and I know the NVL tournament, not too many people have done it, but the reason why I bring that up is, baseball is one of those things where I can't tell you how many times I've seen the 1 seeds and the 2 seeds and such, they drop. I mean, it's happened in the CIC state tournament for baseball this year. It's so unpredictable. You just never know. And I just feel like whoever wakes up on the right side of the bed and if the ball goes their way, it's anybody's game, regardless of seeding.
And, I think that's just the game of baseball itself. And that's why it's just such a great game, because, any team can win on any given day. You look at some other sports, football, basketball. If you have 1 or 2 dominant guys, I mean, the chances are you're probably going to win the game because those kids are just better than everybody else. Which baseball, you have your couple good players on each team or your couple dominant kids. But again, it could be anybody 1 through 9 in the lineup that just has that day. And, that's kind of really where Holy Cross baseball has been this year. Some of our better known players, may have rough days, but the kid right behind him ends up going 3 for 4 with 2 doubles and 4 RBIs. And, we've been playing team baseball. And I think that's just the name of the game when it comes to baseball. You got to be all nine have to be supportive of one another and kind of pick each other up if one's struggling.
Coach, I was at the game where Woodland played Holy Cross at Holy Cross,
Yeah,
and what kind of struck me was it wasn't so much the fact that Woodland continued on punching back. It's
yeah,
that Holy Cross after that game, because one of two things could have happened, especially against a good team like that. You can second guess yourself. You could start to try to do too much, and that's where
right.
things start to go downhill. And I just want to ask you, Coach, kind of what was the discussion like after that game? Because it had to be one where it was like, especially for a first year coach like yourself, you have to make sure that you say the right thing at the right time. Because if you don't, like I mentioned, things could go downhill really quick.
Right. I mean, one of the things that I always stress, I mean, especially after a loss like that, I mean, Woodland's obviously a great team. I just always hope that if we do get beat, that our kids' effort is always at a maximum. And so you try to stress those things after a loss. You don't want to be too negative. Unfortunately, that was a Friday, and we turned around Saturday morning and had a doubleheader with Nanawag, and ended up getting beat in both games. So it was a rough 24 hours for the Crusaders. And after those 2 days, I gave him Sunday off, and that was leading into the last week of the season. And I just kind of said, like, hey guys, where do you want to finish? Because you got 3 games next week. All 3 are meaningful. You need to win all 3 to get a home game in the NVL tournament. And it's kind of do or die from here. It's win or go home. And I got to give our kids credit, because we came back on Monday, and we were a different team. Not saying that our kids weren't playing harder the week before, but we had a different mindset. And I give those kids a lot of credit to go from losing 3 games against 2 quality opponents to, now we're 8-0 since then. So,
Coach, do you think that, and I've always believed that things happen for a reason, either in life, sports, etc. Do you think because of the fact, like, let's say you guys beat Woodland, beat Nottawag, you never have any sort of adversity, right? And then you kind of continue what you did in the NVL tournament. I just wonder, Coach, that do you think that if you didn't go through that adversity, that maybe you would have had some adversity either late in the NVL tournament, the state tournament, and maybe things are not where you want to be? You may be sitting at home because you guys didn't deal with that early on.
for sure. And it's funny that you mentioned that word adversity. It's one of the things that I focus on with our kids every day. In every game, I tell them, in the next 7 innings, we're going to face a bad situation. And it's going to be how we react to that bad situation and how we overcome that situation, that what's going to give us the end result. And, that was from game 1. We gave up an 8-run lead to Oxford in the bottom of the 7th inning and ended up losing 11-9. And, that was kind of example A. And so we've been kind of battling adversity since game 1. And I think our kids they're getting used to dealing with some of the difficult situations that happen in a 7-inning high school baseball game. And, credit to them for, not losing their composure and having each other's backs and being able to, to gut through some of the tough situations that we deal with on a daily basis.
Now, Coach, going into the NVL tournament, I mean, think about the fact that there wasn't even a season last year, and
Yeah.
just how exciting, how thrilling, kind of what was it like as far as going into the NVL tournament? I'm sure the kids were astounded as far as going in because of who they were playing and just the fact of competing. But for the reason of there being an NVL tournament again, there had to be
Yeah.
even more juice to that, right?
Yeah. I mean, all these kids, a lot of them play other sports, whether it be in the fall or winter, and they didn't really have an opportunity for, postseason play. And to be able to play for something, I think always gives all high school kids a little bit of extra juice when it gets to the end of the season. And for us, it was the same thing, with losing last season, all these kids that are playing now were all freshmen and sophomores 2 years ago, so this is really their first season as varsity baseball players, so for them to be able to, make an NVL tournament run, and now be playing well in the Class S tournament, I think it's great for them, and they're enjoying it right now, and they're happy to still be playing baseball and continuing to move forward.
With the youth that that they have as far as at the varsity level. I mean, the same thing kind of goes for you, coach, because you're in your first year. This is your
Yeah,
first opportunity. I mean, you're kind of learning in some ways on the fly as you continue on going throughout your first season and such. So I guess the question I have for you is, coach, kind of how's it been for you? I'm sure there's been some moments where you kind of sit back after a game and go, I should have done this, I should have done that. I mean, how's it been for you?
yeah, for sure. I mean, I've coached baseball at Holy Cross for some years, with Coach Phelan and being a JV coach and a varsity assistant. And you're in the fire, but you're never the guy that's making those meaningful decisions. Really, you always have a little bit of say, but you're never the guy that's making all those decisions. So to go from that to being the head coach and everything kind of revolves around you, it could be a little stressful at times. But one thing for me, I think that's been the best blessing for me is my assistant coaches. They're underappreciated for sure. And in my opinion, I have the best staff around. And those guys have had so much, baseball experience in coaching and also experience at Holy Cross High School. So, for me to be working with them, I'm constantly leaning on those guys, different situations. What do you think about this? And, I give a lot of credit to those guys, that, they've been able to, it's a team effort, players, coaches involved. And, I'm grateful to have those guys with me by my side every game.
It's so important for a first year head coach, and this goes for all sports, especially for a young coach like yourself, to have a staff, and it could be young or old, but just
Yep.
to have, savvy vet guys who have been around for a long time that can kind of help you along the way, and you can
Right.
ask questions. And I'm sure you've done that. And you talk about your staff. I mean, I kind of want to just dive into that real quick. How critical is it to have the amount of years on that bench with all those kind of guys there to be able to pick their brains, and because they've probably seen more than just about anybody in the NVL. They've seen just about everything.
For sure. I mean, all my assistant coaches are well tenured in not only baseball, but NVL and Holy Cross for that matter. So they've been around, they've seen a lot of baseball, they've seen a lot of situations, and they're great at what they do. And the biggest thing is I trust all of them. And to be able to trust your coaches if they have an instinct on something and to be able to go with it. That's what I said before. It's a team effort, and being able to rely on those guys, which I do heavily. Again, it's one of the reasons why I think that we've had success this year, and a lot of respect goes to those guys, and I appreciate what they do for our program.
Now, you made the run all the way through to the NVO championship game. How was that? I mean, did you feel comfortable? And I'm sure you would never say, "Oh, you didn't feel comfortable." But what was it like as far as the day of the championship game? How were you and the team feeling?
I think our kids were excited. One of the things that I always say as a coach is when you see your team on game day or before the game, you could tell by the look in their eye if they're ready to play. If they're scared, if they're hesitant. And one of the things that I noticed from the semifinal and the final is our kids were ready to play. They were ready to get after it, and they showed it. And we played two tremendous opponents in the semifinal and the final in Naugatuck and Watertown. Again, two teams that were playing great baseball at the time, and we had two great games against them. But our kids were ready to play. They were anxious to get after it. And when you have kids like Logan Bissett and Tom Galusha as your two pitchers with a strong defense behind them, you always have a little bit of confidence in what's going to happen that night.
Now, is Logan Bissett related to Tim Bissett by any chance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the youngest. He's the youngest brother.
He's the youngest. Real wow, he has grown up. I played with Tim Bissett when I was
Okay.
in high school for Legion Ball. I was
Yep.
okay. Hear me out real quick. All right, I played on when I was a sophomore. I played on the Legion team with Murphy, Cuevas, Plord, you name it.
Yep.
We just talked about Bissett, who went to Bryant for people who may not know, and he was a
Right.
fantastic pitcher. All of that talent. Aaron McCullough. I played John O'Jelly, if I said his first name right. I
Yep.
played with him for Junior Legion for Oakville. There's so much talent when it comes to, and so much history, rich history when it comes to Holy Cross baseball. So I
Right.
just that like, does that pressure ever kind of like affect you or the players, or is it kind of just like you just do what you can?
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that we feed off of. I've said from day one, the first practice that I had is, what we do here at Holy Cross is special, and we try to continue the tradition, that was built before us, and that's the tremendous baseball players, that have played Holy Cross baseball, and also the three coaches that came before me. So that's what's special about our program, and I think our kids embrace that. And again, it's just adding to one of those elements of our team, which I think is one of the reasons for our success, is they believe in our tradition and they want to continue what has been done before them.
No, coach, you won the NVO championship 4 out of the last 7 years. I think 12th overall, if I remember right. You
Yes.
know, when the final out was made, I mean, did you turn to your staff first? Did you kind of just reflect? Like, what was your first emotion when you won it?
Well, I was actually a little hesitant because Logan Bissett actually bobbled the ball at shortstop that was hit to him, and then I didn't know whether he was going to try to go to first or second, with the throw, which it would have been close at first. And luckily, our sophomore second baseman Zach Morales, which I didn't even know about till the other day, was, I guess, screaming at Logan, two, 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 two. So Logan picked up the ball right really at the runner's feet, threw it to second base to get the final out. So it was actually a pretty hectic initial moment. And then, obviously I was just, so proud of our kids and our staff for being able to accomplish, winning the MVL championship again in a very, very deep, deep MVL.
It was well deserved, man. I mean, you for what you guys were able to do in the regular season in the NBL tournament kind of propels you as far as the state tournament. And
Yeah.
what were you feeling like? Because I'm sure you kind of had the inside track as far as where you guys could have landed as far as rankings. Did you
Yeah.
feel like you would be higher than 11, lower than 11, or was it right where you wanted to be?
We kind of figured we were going to be anywhere from 8 to 12. Really, kind of at the end of the season, we knew where we were going to finish if we had won out those final 3 games, and then some of the other teams in Class S who continue to play that following week of our MVL tournament still kind of had to finish some games up. So we were kind of waiting on some of those results, but we knew we were going to be really towards the 10 to 12 mark. So we kind of figured we'd be where we were. And again, once you get into the tournament, just like the NBL tournament, any team can win on any given day. Obviously, you like to have a couple home games in the CIAC tournament, but we enjoyed our hour and a half ride home from East Granby yesterday.
Yeah, Granby's pretty far. It's a far drive. It's far.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, speaking of that drive, I mean, you won your first game. There's really no point of talking about it. It was pretty lopsided win. But the East Granby game, they play a little bit different brand of baseball down there. Can you kind of, for the people who did not, go to the game or maybe don't know many people who went to the game or such, can you kind
yeah.
of talk about that game and kind of East Granby and such?
Yeah, they were a scrappy team. They played hard. Their middle infield, their shortstop, and their second baseman. And I apologize that I don't know their names offhand, but their shortstop and second baseman were two quality players. Man, they were good. They were solid in the middle. We hit a lot of hard balls up the middle, and they were making plays. Their catcher was a good player, and the kid that pitched yesterday, I believe he was a senior. I believe it was his last game, and he left it all on the field, and he pitched a great game. And I mean, 7 innings, pretty much 7 innings worth of one-run baseball, against any team in high school is impressive. And they had a run early, and we kind of, like I said earlier, we both played good defensive baseball, and our pitchers both pitched really well, into the 7th inning. And, luckily for us, we were able to manufacture a couple runs and end up coming out on the winning side. But they're a very, very good team.
Coach, are you pleased with the fact that you've won 2 games in 2 different ways? You won one game in a blowout where it was not a lot of stress. And then the second game, much different, a lot more intensity, but you guys were able to pull off in the second half. Does that kind of make you feel a little bit more comfortable going later into the stages of the state tournament, because it kind of shows that you guys, although you've done it for all of the regular season, the NBL tournament, but the state tournament is much different. So the question
Right.
I have for you is, coach, do you feel like now that you've seen 2 different styles of play, that now you kind of have an idea of what your team could be in the later stages of the state tournament?
Yeah, I mean, even our first game, our first game was a 1-1 game to the fourth, and we kind of had a good inning offensively and blew it open a little bit. But again, that was 4 innings of great baseball where it was kind of back and forth, a pitching duel and a defensive battle. And luckily we were able to kind of have a big inning in the fourth where we scored, 4 or 5 runs to kind of jumpstart our offense. And then obviously yesterday's game, was kind of one of those old school baseball games where it's, 1-1 in the 7th, and you're sacrifice bunting and squeezing it in the end to try to get a run across. So in terms of moving forward, I think all season, not only these last 2 games, but all season, we've seen, different types of results from different types of baseball games. And obviously Coggins on Saturday is a great opponent, and they're a great team, and we're looking forward to Saturday. And again, to move forward, you got to play your best baseball on that day. And again, it could be anybody's day. So I'm
Coggenshaw
looking
is going
forward
to be a very competitive team. I mean, they have a young man who's going to UConn in a couple years, Kobe Pasquarelli, very
for
good
sure.
left-handed pitcher. I don't know where he lines up, if he would pitch against you or not. I don't know, but I do know one thing: Coggenshaw, they're scrappy. Just like how East Granby plays a different brand of baseball.
Yeah,
Coggenshaw's the same way. I mean, they have high baseball IQ kind of players, and I think it'll
right.
be fun to be able to see that against Holy Cross, which is kind of in the same way. You know what I mean?
For sure. I would think, kind of looking at the results of round one and round two, I think we're going to get Pasquarelli, which again, he's a great player. Obviously, a big lefty that throws really well. Obviously committed to UConn, so he's a top quality player, and they have some good players around him. They've had a great regular season and a great start to the CIA season. So it's an uphill battle for us, but we're ready for the challenge. And I look forward to Saturday.
Coach, I wish you nothing but the best of luck. Keep me informed and let me know how you do on Saturday against Coggenshaw.
Chris, thanks a lot. I appreciate you having me on.
No problem. That wrap things up in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Mercy stands for Connecticut Talent, and I'm our journey to find them all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.